Hey everyone, this is Rick Gualtieri and this is another Tales of a Midlist Author. Today I wanted to talk to you about self-editing. Now, if you've watched any of the previous chapters of this series, you know that I've mentioned that I started off self-editing my books. I kind of consider that a mistake, and I've since moved to a professional team of my editor Megan and also a proofreader. Excuse me. That being said, I think it's still worth talking about self-editing for two reasons. One, just because I work with a professional team doesn't mean I don't self-edit. I don't just crank out a first draft and send it off and be done with it. I go through multiple passes myself. And two, honestly, no matter what I say in this, I know some of you guys are going to be like, well, yeah, well, that's you. I can do it and find myself, and that's the way I'm going to do it. And the truth of the matter is, for some of you, you might be able to. Others, well, you might be able to fool yourself into thinking you're going to do it fine. And then afterwards, you'll be like, okay, yeah, he was kind of right. But the thing is, some people, well, they edit as they write. They produce very clean first drafts. I know I'm not one of them. My first drafts are not pretty. Some people, though, are able to do that. Others, not so much. That being said, what I wanted to talk about were some techniques for self-editing in case you do decide to go down this path. Now, a part of this feels like enabling. As I said, for the record, I recommend you go with a professional editor. That extra set of eyeballs is indispensable in most cases. So in some ways, this is kind of like Mia was kind of telling well, smoking is bad, but hey, if you smoke Pall Malls, there's more Nico flavor in them or so. So let's get that out of the way and move into some techniques that can help you self-edit, because I'll say this: self-editing is possible. Some people do it and they do it successfully. And by successfully, I mean they put out a clean professional product, not just they release something and then later on they're like, well, I guess I'll fix it then. So it is possible. However, it takes more work. And that's the thing I'm going to say that's key. Multiple passes. I remember the first book I released, I probably did 2 passes in it, and they were cursory glances. I wasn't thinking about editing. I'm like, hey, I wrote my first book. I'm a professional author. This looks fine. Let me just throw it up. And I was embarrassed when I went back later and I had I had a little bit more of a clue, and I was like, holy crap, that's what I put out there. So don't go down that route. Multiple passes. I recommend as many as you feel you need, which could be 3, 4, 5, 10, until you feel that book is truly polished, and maybe you've had some other eyeballs look at it. So let's talk about a few tips and tricks when it comes to that. So first one is try to look at your manuscript with fresh eyes. I know there's that race of, hey, I'm done. Let me put it out there. Give it a couple days after you finish a manuscript before you start editing, because then your brain has had a chance to reset. You're kind of looking at it with fresh eyes, because the more familiar you get with the story, the more you're going to miss. And between each pass, you should probably take some time, whether it's a couple days, a week, hell, even a month. I know I don't have that kind of patience, but if you do, hey, that's great. Excuse me, working on a little bit of a minor cold here. So time, fresh eyes, multiple passes. Additional sets of eyes are key. Even if you're not going to hire another editor, there are different things you can do. You can trade edits with another author. Have somebody else look at your book. You can ask a friend. Beta readers, I really wouldn't use them as proofreaders, because that's really not their job. But they can help point out things. And I mentioned multiple eyeballs are key only because I'm looking at my current manuscript. I've had 10 beta readers look at it. I've looked at it multiple times, and not a single person, caught up till now, at least not until I handed it off to Megan, my main editor, who noticed that I meant to write insulated coffee mug, and instead I have insulted coffee mug. And I guarantee if she hadn't caught that, it would have slipped past, and whether it was a day, month, a year from now, some reader would have been like, that's kind of stupid. Because it's really easy to miss stuff. It's your story. You're deep into it. I can't stress that enough. So that being said, what are some like thoughts on how you can minimize that? Well, the first thing I would say is change it up. First of all, every time you go through your manuscript, have a different focus in mind. Like, okay, this time I'm going to look for typos. This time a story. Don't mix it up. Try to stay focused. That's one. Another is change up the medium that you're looking at your manuscript. Looking at the same manuscript in Word on your screen over and over and over again, your brain kind of fries. You start to miss things, and your brain starts to like fill in gaps where it needs work. So first off, don't forget Spellcheck is your friend. If you're writing in Word especially, go through that. I would avoid the grammar check. The grammar check is not that great, but Spellcheck, you might as well do that. That's just stupid to avoid. 2, learn the rules of grammar. Even if you have to go out and buy yourself a copy of the Chicago Manual of Writing, do so. Know how grammar works if you're not going to like hire somebody else, because I'm going to tell you right now, when it comes to reviews, you're always going to have somebody who hates your characters, hates your story, what have you. But those reviews that say your editing sucks, along with your formatting sucks, those are pretty much 99% avoidable. There's always going to be somebody who doesn't like your use of semicolons, and so you can't please everybody. But if you're getting multiple reviews that say this needs to be edited, well, guess what? That's your fault. That's on you. Half the people don't like your characters. That's subjective. But typos all over the place. Those are avoidable. Bad reviews. So learn the rules. Learn the rules of grammar. As you're proofreading and such. Another technique: print it up and mark it out. Some people work best if they if they have the physical manuscript in front of them, they have the red pen, and they go through it that way. I can kind of understand that. Personally, I've never been a big fan of that. Inkjet ink is expensive. I write novels. That's a lot of paper. And quite frankly, I know myself, and I know that if I mark something up on the paper and then put it back on the screen, I'm going to be sloppy and I miss stuff. But some people do really well on that. Always keep track changes on when you're doing stuff. What I try to do when I go through a manuscript is I put track changes on, and when I make a change, rather than make a change and just say it's set in stone and move on, I let it soak. So I'll do that. Maybe 3 chapters later, I'll go back and I'll look at my track changes to make sure that, okay, I actually did make a positive change. I didn't add more typos and such. That's another thing. So track changes is your friend. Another concept, make the font size huge on your screen so that you're only looking at a couple lines. I found that that's that can be an easy way to catch typos. You're only looking at maybe so many lines on your screen. The font is huge. It's kind of harder to miss typos that way, as opposed to you're looking at size 11 on your 1080p monitor. That's another concept. Read it aloud. I find this is great, not so much for catching typos as for finding clunky sentences. Not to brag, but I get a decent amount of kudos in my reviews for my dialogue. And part of the reason there is, even if it's not realistic, real-world dialogue, I try to make sure that it's dialogue that flows off the tongue easily. Therefore, when you're reading it, you can see the character saying it because somebody actually has said it out loud and made sure that that clunky sentence, what looks great on paper sometimes doesn't translate well to the voice. So that's what I like to do. You can act it out if you want to, but read it aloud because that's a good way to catch clunky sentences. One bit of caution there is I would say be mindful of the people around you. If you're doing it in public or around your family, especially with genre. And I've definitely gotten some weird looks there, especially if I've been editing my my pen name. Reading out loud, it's like I stared mesmerized at his throbbing manhood, wondering how it would taste in my. What? I'm working here. Stuff like that. Just like a word of caution. Even if you're doing it with headphones and you're reading aloud, somebody probably is listening and going, Jesus Christ, what the hell is wrong with this person? Unless you're reading some relatively benign YA stuff. I don't. So yeah, I try to make sure that hopefully I'm in an empty house or an empty room. Even better than reading it aloud. Reading it aloud yourself is great for, as I said, clunky sentences. But what I find is probably the best for finding typos is Word, Kindle, what have you. letting the computer do a text-to-speech read back to me. Word has this built in. You just have to turn it on. You highlight a paragraph, you hit play, it reads it back to you in a monotone voice. And the beauty of that is it's going to find all those missing words, to, the, of, things that your brain fills in automatically when you read, but might be missing, and you'll catch that listening to it. The cautionary tale there is two things. One, do it without distractions. Don't listen to it like an audiobook when you're driving or so. Put on a pair of headphones, read it on the screen as you're doing it, give it your full attention, because otherwise you'll hear something, it's wrong, and your brain just won't process it. Whereas if you're reading it along with the computer, you will catch a lot more that way. Second bit of cautionary advice with that is it is boring as all hell. When I sit down and do it, I can maybe get through 2 chapters in a sitting before my eyes start glazing over, because just listening to a boring voice read your exciting manuscript, it can take the most epic battle and make it sound like stereo instructions or so. So that's another thing to keep in mind. And here's the thing. If you find your eyes fuzzing out, take a break, quit. Then when you come back up a couple pages, because at that point, by the time you realize you're fuzzing out, you probably fuzzed out a while back. So make sure that you go over that section again so you don't miss anything. You know, the worst thing you can do is go through this, spend hours upon hours listening to your manuscript, and then really not give it the right attention, so stuff slips through anyway. Now, those are all things to do. You could sit down with somebody else and read it back and forth with them. There's a whole lot of tricks, but really the main thing is time, effort. You want to put out a professional product. You don't want to get those reviews that say, oh, you need better editing, because those are entirely avoidable. Time, multiple passes, change it up as many ways as you can, and if you can get third or additional sets of eyeballs to look at it, even if you're not paying them, more the better. Because it's all about putting out the professional product. Although once again, I do recommend working with professionals. You know, people who are professional editors who've edited a lot of other stuff, a professional proofreader too, if you can afford it. I would say it's worth saving up your shekels even if you can't afford it. But if you can't, or you're not inclined to do that, you take the self-publishing personally, that it all has to be you, then those are a couple tips to help get you through it. Good luck, because that's probably the biggest pitfall when it comes to putting your book out there, putting something out there that's sloppy. Trust me, I've been there. That's about all I can say on that subject, at least for right now. My name is Rick Gualtieri. This is Tales of a Midlist Author, and I hope you're enjoying this series, and I hope it's helping you out. If it is, then it's definitely worth it to me. All right, talk to you soon.